Hello, I'm Professor Boardway with MBA Architectural and MBA Educational Horizons. I represent both companies. And the purpose of this video, or this recording, is to talk a little bit about non-licensed architects or non-architects practicing architecture. In the past, it's an issue that's come up, and not only in this country but in other countries as well, and we try to kind of understand that when an architect is referred to as an architect, it is an individual who is licensed in that state or province or area. Has taken the exams and become licensed and is technically defined as an architect. In some states, if you call yourself an architect and you're not, then that's illegal. I mean, that's a misdemeanor. Holding yourself out as is what they call it, as an architect, and you're not. I go back and forth on this subject a little bit because I know when I opened my office years ago, when I first opened it, I wasn't licensed. I was a non-architect. But the projects that they allowed me to do would be residential and single family, and then also multifamily, not more than 4 units on a site, and they have some height restrictions and such. And so this is one state that I practice in. They call it the Practice Act, Architects Practice Act. And I think other states have similar laws as well. I go back over all the time that I went to school, working for firms, building up my experience, graduating with degrees, preparing for the exam, taking the exam, passing it, and then becoming a licensed architect in that state. So that was a lot of work. I mean, where we went to school and we learned about form and function and which one follows what. Actually, a lot of debate on that, I'm here to tell you on that issue. If it doesn't function, it's not going to last long. Doesn't care. It doesn't matter what it looks like. Anyway, so much for form. But anyway, I go back over all the time that I spent on preparing and adding to my experience as far as flow and circulation and function and purpose and occupancies, various occupancies, and what's appropriate, what isn't appropriate as far as good design, what constitutes good design and bad design, and so we've been through it all, as far as that goes, and so for someone to step up and say that they're practicing architecture and they haven't had that experience, all right, it's almost hypocritical. It's kind of defrauding or not properly reflecting their lack of experience. And by the time the client understands this, they're too far down the road, and they're under construction, and now the flow doesn't work, and you got doors swinging into each other or whatever. And so it's a matter of kind of making sure that the client or the owner is alerted to the fact that if they hire some non-licensed architect, then they might be in for that possibility. So you've got the experienced individual who understands flow and function and adjacencies and spatial allocation and all of that against a person that perhaps doesn't have that concept or hasn't been trained that way. I know some engineers have a tendency to refer to themselves as architects, and sometimes they sell the idea. It's a one-stop shop. You come here and we do the the civil engineering for you, and the calculations, and the architecture for you, and and all of that. And the one-stop shop is like appealing to a client, so they don't have to go out and hire a lot of consultants or have the architect hire the consultant. So there's a selling point there. But you have to kind of watch out for individuals that come across and reflect themselves as architects when they're not really trained as architects. Okay. So that's what I mean by I'm kind of going back and forth on that a little bit, because if it wasn't for that opportunity for me to practice on those project types, not being a licensed architect, then I couldn't have opened my office, back in the 80s, 1980s, and so what I did is I worked on single-family homes and multi-units, not more than 4 units, and I checked documents for other architectural firms because they had some knowledge of codes, and I did red marking for them, and so you kind of become diverse, on what you can do. Until I became licensed, and then that opened the door for, commercial projects and industrial and institutional and hospitality and those types of projects as well. So, I know some boards clamp down. I mean, they chase these drafting services that call themselves architects or practicing architecture. You can't practice something unless you're licensed in the discipline and in the profession. As an architect. Okay. Before that, you're a draftsman, a designer. I got a letter once. I think she signed it almost architect. That's fine. Kept it legal. Yeah. But you have to kind of just be aware that those type of people profess themselves as architects and they're not. Okay. And sometimes, that's one of the reasons why some of the boards like to have the names, the principals of the firm in the name of the firm, instead of some erroneous or ambiguous type of acronym firm or something, sometimes the acronym in the firm is referred to, but then if you go to the DBA or where they filed, their company name at the county recorder's office, usually then you can find that their full name is in there, and that's fine. That makes it legal. But the reason why some boards like the name of the firm, the name of the principals in the name of the firm, is that they can confirm that yes, they are licensed architects. Because if it's some ambiguous name, then that usually, or not usually, sometimes could refer to drafting services that are reflecting themselves as architects, and they're not. So, and some architects sometimes will use drafting services, especially in these types of. Sometimes when economy is really slow, you have to lay off people, and then it comes back and it's a big tidal wave, and now you don't have the staff, and so you've got to sub it out to drafting services and so on. In some states, they consider that to be illegal because it's not under the direct responsible control of the architect when the documents are being generated. And so when the architect goes to stamp and sign those documents, that's what that reflects, by the way, is that they were generated by them or their force in their office under the direct supervision and all of that definition, right? And they own the copyrights to them and so on. And if an architect stamps and signs the documents, and the documents were not directly generated under their supervision, direct control, daily monitoring, in their office, then they're reflecting something that's not correct, Anyway, you have to check with your board on the technicalities of that, but anyway. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about non-architects practicing architecture and reflecting that, and so you have to kind of just be aware of that. So, when I talk to someone, I have to let them know right away that I'm a licensed architect, because I could be defrauding myself, or they could misunderstand who I am or what I represent. And so even when I generate letters, I have to write it licensed, or not licensed, but architect, and so on, so to let them know that I'm a licensed architect as well. But any questions on that, just let me know. I do expert witnessing on law cases as well with attorneys, and so I kind of keep myself up to date regarding what's legal and what isn't, and so it might be good for you to do that as well. I mean, it keeps you out of trouble, understanding what responsibilities you have and what responsibilities you don't have, as well. But I also do consultation. I mean, I get calls from principals of firms, and they, we'll spend an hour on the phone, and you can, look on my website for that consultation rate and that type of thing. But I also do seminars and tutoring, and I mean teleseminars right now, because we're going through this virus thing. Which hopefully will go away in the next year or so. But right now, everything's online, and so I do tutoring and teleseminars to prepare the candidates for the architectural exam across the United States, as well as the CSE, and also the NCIDQ, Interior Designers Exam, as well. And I have materials and videos and audios and all that as well. Anyway, if you have any questions, give me a call. Our website is MBA, Mike Bravo Apple architectural.com, and you can find a lot of information on that as well. All right, take care. Thanks. Bye-bye.